On the outskirts of a small New England town, surrounded by dense, whispering pines and tucked away from prying eyes, stood a secluded wellness retreat named Whispers of the Soul. It wasn't a place people stumbled upon. It was spoken about in hushed tones, its name passed between those who sought profound healing. The owner, an enigmatic man named Ethan Kane, was as much a mystery as the retreat itself. Jessica Miller had heard about Whispers of the Soul from her friend Megan, who swore it had changed her life. "It's not like anything you've ever experienced," Megan had said, her voice brimming with awe. "Ethan, he knows things. He can reach into the parts of you that you didn't even know were broken." Jessica was skeptical but desperate. At 29, she felt like she was carrying the weight of a lifetime. A demanding corporate job in the city had drained her spirit, leaving her with constant headaches and an ache in her chest that never seemed to go away. Her personal life wasn't faring any better. Her recent breakup with Aaron, her boyfriend of 4 years, had shattered her. Every attempt at moving forward felt like trying to run in quicksand. So, on a gray November afternoon, she found herself driving through winding country roads, her GPS leading her deeper into the forest. When she finally arrived, the sight of the retreat took her breath away. The building was a charming old farmhouse, its weathered exterior softened by ivy and surrounded by gardens that seemed to bloom out of season. The air was crisp and carried a faint, soothing scent of pine and lavender. Jessica hesitated at the front door, her nerves prickling with both excitement and unease. She wasn't sure what she expected, maybe an overpriced spa treatment and some half-hearted reassurances, but something about the place felt different. It felt alive. The door opened before she could knock, and there stood Ethan Kane. He was taller than she'd imagined, his presence both commanding and serene. His sharp green eyes met hers, and for a moment, she felt as though he was reading the very fabric of her thoughts. "Jessica," he said, his voice low and steady, as if he'd been expecting her. "Come in." She stepped inside, the warmth of the house enveloping her. The interior was rustic yet elegant, with wooden beams, soft candlelight, and the gentle sound of wind chimes dancing in the air. It felt more like stepping into a sanctuary than a spa. Ethan led her to a sitting area where a fire crackled in the hearth. They spoke briefly about her reasons for coming. Jessica hesitated, unsure how much to reveal, but Ethan's gaze was so piercing, so knowing, that she found herself pouring out everything, her stress, her heartbreak, her sense of being unmoored. He listened without interrupting, his expression unreadable yet somehow comforting. When she finished, he nodded. "You're carrying a lot more than you realize," he said. "It's time to let it go." Jessica followed him down a hallway to a treatment room. The space was intimate, filled with soft light and the scent of essential oils. A massage table stood in the center, draped with plush linens. Ethan gestured for her to lie down. As Jessica settled onto the table, she felt a flicker of apprehension. She reminded herself that she was here to relax, to heal. Ethan began with a traditional massage, his hands firm yet gentle as they worked over her tense muscles. She felt herself beginning to unwind, her thoughts quieting for the first time in weeks. Then something changed. Ethan paused, and she felt the faint hum of something metallic against her skin. "What's that?" she asked, her voice muffled by the pillow beneath her face. "A tool," Ethan said simply. "It helps release what's trapped inside." Before she could ask more, the tool began to glide over her back. It wasn't painful, but it was unlike anything she'd felt before. A gentle vibration pulsed through her, and suddenly, vivid images flooded her mind. She saw herself as a child, sitting by a window during a thunderstorm, clutching a stuffed bear as her parents argued in the next room. She felt the sharp sting of loneliness she'd carried since that day. Then, the scene shifted to her teenage years, her first heartbreak, the moment she'd learned that vulnerability could be dangerous. As the tool moved over her body, the memories came faster, each one unlocking emotions she'd buried deep. The pain of losing her grandmother, the crushing disappointment of a failed promotion, the quiet nights spent alone after Aaron left. Tears spilled down her cheeks, but She couldn't bring herself to stop Ethan. With every memory, she felt a weight lifting, as though the tool was carving out space for something new. When it was over, Jessica lay still, her body trembling with exhaustion and relief. Ethan placed a warm cloth over her back and sat quietly beside her. What just happened?" she asked, her voice hoarse. "You've been holding on to a lot," Ethan said. "This tool helps bring it to the surface, so you can release it." Jessica sat up slowly, wrapping the blanket around herself. She felt raw but strangely whole, as though she'd shed a skin she didn't even know she was wearing. Over the next few hours, Ethan guided her through the process of understanding what she'd experienced. They talked about the memories that had surfaced and how they had shaped her. For the first time, Jessica felt like she truly understood herself, not just the parts she showed the world, but the hidden corners she'd ignored for years. When she finally left Whispers of the Soul, the sun was setting, casting the forest in shades of gold and crimson. Jessica felt lighter, her steps more purposeful. She didn't know exactly what lay ahead, but for the first time in a long time, she felt ready to face it. As she drove back to the city, her thoughts kept returning to Ethan and his mysterious tool. She couldn't explain what had happened in that room, but she knew one thing for certain: she was no longer the same person who had walked through those doors.